This is a V8 Dyson vacuum. You can tell it's V8 because there's a couple of identifying characteristics. The min-max switch is on the top. It has this twist-off filter on the back that's a blue color. When you lift this lever up, the bottom pops off and dust falls out as the opening mechanism. Now my V8 Dyson has an older battery and it doesn't run very long, so it needs a replacement battery. This is a LIVIASA battery replacement for the Dyson V8. I was sent this to review for free, but if you wanted to purchase it, it'll cost you between $32 and $40. I have not been paid for my review, and so my opinions are my own. Okay, in the box we have a little user's manual. We have a safety cover that came over this guy, which you don't need after it's shipped. And they gave us a bag of little replacement screws that are very similar to the original screws. The head's just slightly different, and the length is just about exactly the same, but not quite the same. So if you've saved your original screws, I'd say just use the original screws, but if you don't have them anymore, it's nice that they've included some replacement screws. So there are 3 screws you need to access the battery. One is up here at the top, and the other 2 are down there, hidden underneath this base plate. So if you release this base plate, you can get easy access to those 2 screws down there. To open these screws, you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, a little pointy Phillips screwdriver. I'm having to pull on this screw with my fingernail to get out that last little bit. So with those 3 screws removed and this little opening open, you can just pull the battery right off the bottom. And so the battery unit has the charging plug and the whole battery assembly, and it looks like this. There's a little thing here that is part of the trigger assembly that turns the battery on and off, or turns power on and off from the battery. And as you can see here, physically this looks basically identical to my original battery. Obviously it's not by Dyson, it is a replacement battery. So we're going to install this guy in the Dyson. So installation is basically the reverse of removal. You take this guy and slide it up in here, snap it in place. You can test if it works or not just by holding it in place. And once you're happy that everything's working, we need to reinstall those same 3 screws. Once those 3 screws are in place, you're ready to charge your vacuum and make use of it. So from the factory, this replacement battery came charged enough to show all 3 lights. I'm going to plug it in, make sure it's fully charged before I do a test to fully discharge it, and then I'll record how much power it takes to fully recharge it again. So I have the wall mount bracket, which plugs it in automatically when it's on the wall mount bracket and charges it. If you don't have that, you can just plug the plug in. One thing I've noticed about this replacement battery is that it takes a lot more effort to pull it out of the plug than the original battery. This might just be because it's brand new plug. Alright, the charging light has gone out, so this guy is fully charged. Okay, we have the replacement battery fully charged. This is our max setting. We're going to see how long it'll run that way. Alright, that thing ran for 7 minutes and 38 seconds, and that is our max power mode. That is significantly better than the 30 seconds my original battery was putting out. I am going to try to run this guy all the way down. So the red light is blinking now. I'm going to turn it to the low power mode and see if I can get any more power out of this battery. Now this battery is pretty warm right now because we discharged it continuously for 7.5 minutes. Let's see if anything else will come out at the lower power setting. Yeah, that's a no. It's pretty much triggered the low voltage cutoff and it's not turning back on. Now obviously you're going to get more than 7.5 minutes of runtime at the low setting. My goal here was to discharge the battery fully. I'm going to plug it in and use a kilowatt meter here to figure out how many watts go into recharging this battery. So the nameplate on this battery says it is a 129.6 watt-hour capacity. So I would expect with charging losses and everything, we're going to be putting in 135, 140 watts to charge it up. We'll see what that says. Alright, just sitting here plugged in, the Dyson power adapter draws essentially 0 watts, and that's important because I'm going to leave this overnight, and so when it's done charging I don't want to integrate any power that the brick might be using on its own, but basically the brick draws nothing if it's not actually charging. Alright, I've plugged the vacuum in, and the lights are flashing, and my power meter is still reading 0 watts, although the difference is every so often I see it go up to 0.3 watts. So either this battery is completely defective and it's not charging at all, or maybe it has a temperature system where it will not start charging until the battery temperature falls down below a safe level. This particular Dyson charger is supposed to be able to deliver, there's the 0.3 flash, it's supposed to be able to deliver 20 watts, so I'd expect it to be able to recharge this guy in 6-7 hours. But right now it is not drawing enough watts for my watt meter to barely register at all. So every so often it goes up and spikes just slightly and then goes back down. So I'm hopeful that if I leave this guy plugged in for a while, it will start charging, and I'm going to come check in an hour. Alright, it's been 30 minutes and we are charging, and now, much nicer, it says it's taking 18.1 watts to do so. Alright, this guy is fully charged. It's drawing 0 watts now, and it took a total of 70 watt hours to recharge it. Now obviously 70 is less than the 129 watt hour faceplate claim on this battery, so there can't possibly be a larger battery than 70 watt hours in there, and it's probably closer to 60-65 watt hours given the inefficiencies of charging. So it's been on there for 9 hours and 29 minutes, the lights are turned off, it's definitely done charging. So this replacement battery says it is 6,000 milliamp hours or 6 amp hours, and they claim 129.6 watt hours. And yet when I recharged it, the charger took 70 watt hours to recharge it. So they're lying about that. Now, the original Dyson battery here is the same form factor, has the same number of cells in it, and it claims to be 2,800 milliamp hours or 2.8 amp hours and 65 watt hours. So I think this replacement battery has pretty much exactly the same capacity as the original Dyson battery. It's about 65 watt hours because it took 70 watt hours to charge it back up. So I'm going to do another runtime test. I'm going to switch this to the low setting, and so we're basically seeing how long the replacement battery will run this guy on low. Alright, so with this thing set to low, that ran for 42 minutes and 30 seconds. So I discharged this vacuum running at the low mode instead of the max mode. It took 42 minutes, and the battery was not at all warm to the touch. And so when I plugged it in, it started charging immediately, so it's not waiting for the battery to cool down. I have reset the watt-hour meter here, and we will see if it replicates the 70 watt hours to recharge it. Alright, the battery's done charging. The charger is now taking 0 watts, and it took a total of 70 watt hours to charge this guy up. So again, the battery in there is probably about a 65 watt hour battery in capacity. This time it took somewhere less than 5 hours to charge that up. Alright, so this replacement lithium-ion battery looks like it's about 65 watt hours of capacity, which is less than the rated watt hours and milliamp hours, but pretty equivalent to the original Dyson battery. It gives you about 7.5 minutes of runtime on max mode and about 42.5 minutes on low mode. That's not including any powered accessories, but just with the vacuum itself. So right now it's working pretty well, about as well as the OEM battery. Now I can't talk about longevity after a year or 2 years, how fast this battery will degrade, but right now it's a good replacement battery for the Dyson.